Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here. This is my second time coming. The first time I came, Google sent me to some bush. So today I decided to come earlier, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm a bit tired, so I don't really want to talk much, and I don't have any proper presentation. So I'm just going to speak for a few minutes about leadership. If you don't have any questions, I'll be very, very happy. If you, I mean, I'm more desperate to live here than you. So if you don't want to, if you don't want it to be long, I don't intend to talk long at all. I do morning radio every working day, 4 days a week. Today I wasn't on air. I've been emceeing a program since 9. People talking a lot of things. So I'm just going to move straight. I'm told this is not like, there's no exam for this course. So it's like, I should just come and say anything, right? Is that an exam? Oh, let's be sure. Do you write a paper? You are not even sure, God. Wow. All right, no problem. Couple of things. So, when I was in the university, this is 2004 at Legon, there wasn't really this kind of thing. You know, there was this course we used to do called, what's it called? I forget the name. African Studies or something, where they'll bring everybody together. And I'm told this is like your biggest class, right? Funny, because in my 4 years of Legon, my smallest class was like this. Because the African Studies was held at a place called the N Block. And they did something called Aprotech, Appropriate Technology, which I didn't understand what it was. And then other courses, and we're like 800. And the lecturer would always be angry, and he would speak in low tones, and it was examinable, right? So, in a sense, you guys are better, even though you're also in a worse situation, because Ghana was much better than now. So I don't know whether I'm better than you or whether you're better than me, because your biggest class is like my smallest class, which means that you have better quality education, but you have more problems to solve than I will ever have, because I'm 42 years old, and most of you are like 20 or something. So what I'll do is I will use that to contrast the leadership challenge you guys have versus the leadership challenge I have. I don't really like the topic, like using media as a tool to influence, as a new tool to influence leadership in Africa. I'm a journalist, so I pick everything apart. Media is not the new tool. Media is always there, right? Now, if you say to influence leadership, are you influencing? So it's like media is here, leadership is here. I reject that notion. Media is leadership. So you can't say use media to influence leadership. It's like politicians are the leaders and we influence them. No, I reject that. So using media as a tool for leadership, right? So whatever space you're in, whether you're in entertainment, whether you're in drama, whether you're in science, technology, that is the tool to be a leader, not the tool to influence somebody. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because leadership is not like, oh, I thought you were outside the country. So let's make some noise for your president. So you haven't missed anything. This is just my introductory thoughts. Leadership is not something that is there and then we are influencing it. I reject that. So this is leadership, right? That I have to go and talk to 120 students, or I don't know how many you are. That's leadership. So a lot of people want to sort of compartmentalize leadership to be just political leadership, which I know political leadership is very important, but leadership is essentially influencing your sphere positively, right? And if you don't do that, you are not a leader. You could be a president of a country but not a leader. The fact that you are in a position doesn't make you a leader, because you don't influence anything positively. You are just an imposter. Please, are we getting that straight? So you may not get this information in a book, but I'm saying to you that it's important for you to recognize that you are a leader. Second point, when I was in Legon, things were much simpler, right? We didn't have this university. We didn't have Ashesi. We had Legon. Legon was the best. And this Legon being the best, my smallest class was as big as this. I mean, how can you be educated? And I'm learning economics. And there are equations. It's not like some guy just coming to rattle on leadership. The guy is coming to draw indifference curve on, not on a projector, on a blackboard. And I'm sitting at the back and I can't see properly. I didn't even have glasses. Do you get me? So you guys have a better quality education. But the problem is that things are really messed up now. Because, I mean, I have kids and I don't even know what I want them to. I don't want to watch TV. I don't know. Like, everywhere they go, things are just chasing them. They take my phone to play a game and before you know it, I don't even know. So you guys have a big task, right? Take this course seriously. So you can kind of say, oh, you know what, Charlie? This course is the write exam. Eugene Baole cry, they bore me. So let me just kind of say that. Trust me, some of the most important things you will learn in school are not things you'll be examined on. I went to do my MBA at Warwick Business School. There were 72 people in that class. I didn't enjoy the MBA in terms of the class, right? Because I was the only Ghanaian, 5 Nigerians, 8 Americans, 10 British, a lot of Indians, a couple of Chinese, 2 smoking Russians, you know, and then it was in the behavioral spectrum, we were all red, we were all high achievers who were all arguing. And the worst part of the MBA was that every single course you had to do it in a syndicate group. Oh, I hated it. Like, I want to learn on my own. You've taught us an accounting paper, and then you want 10 people to work together. And there's this girl who's like trying to prove that she's smarter than you, and then some guy who keeps interrupting you because he thinks black people don't have sense. And then some, like, I mean, the whole thing was just annoying. So I did the MBA, I passed it, and I finished MBA in 2009, right? We're in 2023. I don't remember anything they taught in the classroom, but I remember how you can achieve with people you don't like. That's the most important lesson I learned. And so they were very smart in creating a leadership program where the MBA forces leadership out of you, not by writing it on a blackboard, but by putting you in a difficult situation. Do you understand? So this course is important because this is the course that will teach you, and this is not about whether I want to be a politician or not. The biggest problem in Africa is not poverty. It's not religion, it's not ignorance, it is leadership. Simple, right? So the most important course is leadership. And you don't learn leadership by going to Gimpa to do a leadership masters. That's not how you do leadership. You do leadership by being put in a difficult situation. Do you understand me? So it's like you are in a class, you are hungry, the lecturer is annoying you, your girlfriend is not texting you. But if you can concentrate and make something useful, you are developing leadership. You have followed me? So you need to change your whole orientation that challenges on class, on guy they come talk. No. Trust me, 4 years after you leave here, you will not remember what an indifference curve is. And you may not even need it. The reason we teach you the way we teach you, fine, memory is important, right? People say chew and pour is not good. Today I was emceeing a program, right? And they had a very big theme. They said, good to great with Vodafone. Innovate, comply, expand. It's too long. When I was in secondary school, when I was learning chew and pour, you use mnemonics to remember things. So when I was in present, all right, innovate is I, C, comply, E, expand. So ice, baby, do. That's how I learn. So I'm serious. So when I get to the exam room, and if you did economics or geography, you have to write a lot of things. So you use the mnemonic to remember. Now people are like, chew and pour is not good. Okay, if you can't remember something, how do you apply it? Do you understand? If you don't remember, chew without digesting and pouring is not good. But if you chew and you digest, you can pour. So there's nothing wrong with chew and pour because memory, I mean, look, the only purpose of information is if you can retrieve it, right? If I have 10,000 books in my house and there's a book I need that I can't retrieve, having those books don't help me, right? So memory is not a bad thing. The only thing is that our education solves for only memory without imagination, right? But that's a different discussion. So the point I'm making to you is that leadership is the most important thing you will learn anywhere in the world. If a university has the sense to make it a course and you think it's not important, because trust me, when you leave here, every problem you face will be a leadership problem. Every problem you face will be a leadership problem. And you have a population bulge. So many people are being born. There aren't enough resources available for them. And our leaders are leading us very poorly. So one of the things I would do if I were you is to say, I want this institution to mold me into an effective leader before I leave here. Right? And that doesn't come by running for office necessarily. or getting a billboard. It's developing the discipline and the behavior that can make you tenacious. Am I making sense? Education is about making the person better. It's not about passing an exam or getting a degree. It's about becoming a better human being. Everything I am is the kind of education I have. And my education has not just been in the classroom. When I was on campus, I used to do, somebody asked me, how are you able to combine all the things you combine? You are so smart. I'm not that smart. I've been through difficult situations. When I was in my third year on the University of Ghana campus, my God, it was crazy. Level 300, I was doing economics and geography. I was the student, my hall secretary. That means you write all the minutes for all the meetings, you do all the announcements. I was the class prefect for my economics class. That was number 2. Number 3, what else was I? I was in a church called LPU. I was a secretary. That means every Sunday we invite people to come and preach, and I write minutes. I was on the chaplaincy board. And all of this, I was the head of the student broadcasters. We were 13. I was the head of student broadcasters, right? Now, why am I doing all that? Because 20 years later, I'm going to have kids. I'm going to have to go on a morning show early. I have to go and MC a program, come and speak to students. My driver is picking the kids. After that, I'll meet them and go home, teach them homework. Now, if I can't do that in level 300, I'll just be a useless man. And it's not about whether I pass the exam or not. It's about whether I have the breadth inside to manage complexity. That's what makes you a leader. So it's not. So if you are here, you don't volunteer, you haven't learned anything, you don't know how to sacrifice, you can't be disciplined, you will just be useless. Right? So this is the crucible for bringing the best in you. So take it seriously. You are in the top 1,000th of Ghanaians who nobody's going to get this education. Most people who can't afford this kind of education. When I was in Legon, we were in a room. When my dad was in Legon, my dad finished Legon in 1970 something. He was in a Kwafo hall. Most of the halls have a main room and an inner room. When he was in the Kwafo hall, the inner room was a balcony where you go and stretch and you go and shout, "Obia ya boy." That's what you do. So basically, there were 2 in a room. The balcony, they put their stuff and they go and shout, just fooling. When I was in Legon in 2000, that place he used to shout was an inner room. It was a coveted room. People paid bribes to sleep there. Then there were 4 beds in the outer room when he had 2. And what makes matters worse, each person had a pitcher. Yeah. And so there were 8 of us in the outer room. So how do you resolve it? You go and learn and come at 1 a.m., come and wake Aloski up, 2 go and study, and you sleep. That's what we did. So what kind of education am I going to get? Well, yeah, maybe I did you and poor, but if I can survive in that environment, I'm going to outlast you in a difficult civil service where people are corrupt, but I will survive. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying luxury is a bad thing. You give me difficult situation, I make the most of it. So my education was not the fact that I understand what the Laffer curve is. The education is that I can get a first class, combine student leadership, teaching a private person, sleeping in a room of 8 people, and still sound sensible when I talk to 200 students without preparation. That's what education does for you. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay. Good. Now, let's go on. Now, the context of this is Africa, because we need to understand that the 54 African countries were not created to develop. And if you don't know this at this time, you can't change the world. Africa's growth was interrupted by colonialism. You know, the Berlin Conference, 44, where groups of people were split artificially. So, for example, in Ghana, you have Akan people in the western region, Nzema people, they're in Cote d'Ivoire as well. I'm Ewe, I'm from the Volta region. Some of my people are in Togo, right? Now, if you want to sit on a train from Accra to Lagos, it's not possible. Not because there isn't a rail line. The British had a different gauge than the French, which was deliberate. So they didn't intend for us to horizontally communicate to each other. So if you go from Nouakchott to Pointe Noire, all the capitals are on the coast. Think about that. Why? Mauritania, Nouakchott, Dakar, Banjul, Conakry, Monrovia. What's the next one? Sierra Leone. What's Sierra Leone's capital? Freetown, Abidjan, Accra, Togo, Cotonou, Lagos. Why are all of them on the coast? It's because somebody designed a system to exploit raw materials, do rails down, ship them to Europe. If you don't understand that and all you want to do is to go on holidays in London, you are part of Africa's problem. You need to know that we are in a struggle for, yes, you need to understand this. And I understood this as a student. So the reason I'm a fiery journalist is not because I'm angry with politicians. When I was in Geneva last week, or 2 weeks ago for a conference, right? And you're traveling, you're at the airport, and some guy who has half of your education is asking you stupid questions about where you're going. I was like, dude, why would I leave my country and come to Europe if I don't, do I look like I want to stow away? But yeah, most of my brothers will get the chance to stow away. We don't have respect for we haven't developed our continent. And we have to take responsibility for that. And if you are in the top 1,000 of people getting this education, you are a leader. And if you don't understand the context of Africa, geopolitics, development, and you think it's all about just passing, your parents are annoying you, let me just get a degree. No. You are the guys to free the continent. Because where we are is somebody's orchestration. Somebody thought about it and planned it. That we can't talk to each other. So if you go to a conference in Europe, all the Francophones are speaking to each other, Anglophones are fighting. We don't know that we are brothers. And even within Anglophones, we are arguing. We are too small to influence the rest of the world. So instead of aggregating, if I'm a company, the biggest company in Ghana, the biggest shoe company in Ghana, how many shoes do you produce? Let's assume you produce 1,000 shoes. If you want to even supply shoes to Asda, do you know how many shoes Marubeni India can produce? They can produce like 500,000 a day. How are you going to compete with Marubeni? You need to think about Nouakchott to Point Noir if you are going to influence the world. Yet you are so happy that you are an Ashanti in Kumasi. You don't even think, so you even think your Ewa is your enemy. You are not even wise enough to know that all the people from Nouakchott to Point Noir are your brothers. You don't even understand that because you've miseducated. And you think because you speak English and you sound intelligent. No. No. Do you know what I'm saying? So you have a leadership challenge. And the first job of a leader is to define reality. And the reality is that Africa is not in a good place. The first job of a leader is to define reality. I'm the head of my home. I'm the father. If there's no money in the house, I'll tell the family, guys, we ain't got money. We have to. So your job, so this is the issue. If you don't have a proper sense of reality, you can't be an effective leader. What's our reality? 30 million people. Yes, first Africa country to be independent, sub-Saharan. That's great. Free SHS. Good idea, badly implemented. Presec, when I was there, 98 was when I graduated. I went in 96. Right? I was 15 when I went. 4 science classes, 2 general arts classes, 1 visual art class, 1 agri class. The whole Form 1 group was 413 boys. I went to Presec last month to speak at the assembly. Science has 24 streams. Guys, so when I was in Presec, A1 was art, A2 was art, B1 was business, B2 was business, C was agric, D was visual art, and then E, F. E was biology, F was bio and maths, G, H, maths. Now A, B, C, D till 24 is all science. We haven't added art. What kind of education are they getting? You don't think that's a problem? Or you don't think it affects you? Form a company. Your father is a millionaire. Okay, you're going to hire somebody who was one of 200,000 people being trained who can't even see the blackboard properly. And you're going to give a speech somewhere, he's going to be making errors. So we have to think about those things. Are you following what I'm saying? So the first job of a leader is to define the reality. That's very important. And our reality is that Africa has a development struggle. And our leaders are really either too scared to face it or not tactical enough to deal with it. All right? Kwame Nkrumah's ideas are great. I love him. You need to read all his books. If you are 25, you haven't read in Kwame Nkrumah's book, shame on you. Shame on you. Yes. It shouldn't be in your course outline. You should read it. You should read it. Neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. You should read it. You've not read an Nkrumah book? You are not educated as an African. Have you read Ngugi wa Thiong'o? Do you know who he is? These are very important things. You need to understand, because your job is to know your reality. Your reality is that when the guy talking to you was in Presec, there were only 8 streams. But now in your year, there are 24 science streams, over 35 streams. The school has 5,400 students. When I was there, we were 400. The people in front of me were 350, and those ahead were 300. So the whole school is about 1,000. Now, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3 is 5,400. When I went, they had Form 2s were home, and they couldn't even do the assembly in the assembly hall. I mean, you finish school, you don't even know who your mate is. This is the situation, and we are mass producing these guys to come and work in our civil service and want to compete with the French and the Japanese. And then you say, me, I'm MPP or NDC. You are not serious. We have a developmental challenge. So, being in the top 1,000 of Ghanaians, you have to subject yourself to discipline. Which brings me to my second point. Leadership is not cheap. It has a price. The price tag of leadership is called sacrifice. Leadership is not cheap. When I was JCR secretary, I was going to announce JCR meetings, holding a megaphone. We are going to do a cleanup on Saturday. So I'm Thursday, standing in front of Annex A. Annex A, yeah. Leadership now. So, oh, mommy, something, insult you. Somebody spit on you. Do I get angry? No. They will insult you. If you don't want to be... People insult me every day. There are even radio shows dedicated to me that just insult me. If you want to be a leader, sacrifice is part of it. So leadership is not a comfortable life. Everything doesn't have to be arranged for you. So the first job of a leader is to define reality. Second thing, the price tag. So it's not a post. That's the problem in Africa. Now, Ghana is broke, right? People want to be president. But it's not a sacrificial job. Because Article 71 office holders are the best paid. Our politicians take the most money. They are not leaders. You are riding in a V8 which can build a chips compound. And you're 10 times what an average teacher is paid. And then you even come to... You understand? So, rushing into political office is not leadership. It's thinking about influencing society for the better. That's leadership. Which brings me to the original point. The division of leadership is influence. Leadership is not a post. We are too post-conscious. I'm the cupboard boy. I'm the class prefect. Most of the people who were prefects when I was in prefect, I don't know where they are. Some of the great change makers among my mates, Bright Simmons and co, they are not even political anything. So stop deceiving yourself with posts. Are you following what I'm saying? Good. So I'm saying that leadership will cost you something. It's not cheap. And you must prepare yourself for it. Your mind must be broad. You must have a keen sense of the world. Then you must develop personal discipline. Because what destroys leaders, if I can't trust you with money, then I can't trust you with people's destinies. So if you are not a steward, if I give you 200 cedis to buy something, the change is 12 cedis, and you tell 12 cedis, I'll give it back to you, you will be a bad leader. Because if somebody will steal 2 cedis, he will steal 2,000. And if you steal 2,000, you steal 10,000. And if you steal, he will lie. And if you lie, he will kill. Yes. So you don't measure people by how much the size they've stolen. If you have a brother who steals 2 cedis, beat it out of him. Or pray it out of them. Because if they steal 2, they'll steal 20. So it takes me to the second point about discipline. Yes, when we talk about Ghana's dystopia, people say, well, it's the citizens. When they are in opposition, they say the government is bad. When they are in government, they say the citizens. Yes, citizens have to do better. But leadership sets the tone. And I'm saying that most of our leaders don't understand sacrifice. When they come to you for your votes, don't just vote for them because you are Ewe and NDC. No. Or Ashanti MPP. No, reject that. Ask them questions. Find out whether they've thought about what they are saying. Check their track record. It's not how eloquent they are. What have they done? You don't just need to become president. What have you done? In China, I knew from 2012 that Xi Jinping will be president. Because the China expert I interviewed said to me, his province has been the most profitable. So he's gearing for leadership. They knew he was going to take over from whoever was there at the time. It's a system. They are structured systems. So what I'm saying to you is, you need to think about how you and your generation will crack the code of politics. Because of all the mountains of influence, politics, in my view, is the most influential, but also the most dangerous. It can do the most good, but also the most damage. So, if you want to influence, either as a politician or influence outside, you must understand it. Michael Kwe was speaking last week somewhere, and he said, he was speaking to Christians, and he said, you guys, you say you are honest, but there are not enough of you in politics. Then he said something, he says, there are too many people who say they are honest, but not knowledgeable enough. And then he says, there are lots of knowledgeable people who are not honest. Right? So there are people who believe they are honest, but it's too dirty for me. And then there are people who they've acquired all the knowledge about it, But so when I'm interviewing for journalism, I say, oh, what do you want to do? How to be a journalist? Oh, okay. Why? Oh, me, I don't like politics. So, as if that makes you better than somebody. Oh, me, I don't like. You don't need to like something to learn it. I didn't like math, but I learned it because it will be a tool for economics. Do you understand? So this thing about I don't like math, I don't need to like math to learn it. Because I want to be great. So I will do what I have to do now so I can do what I want to do later. Do you understand? So don't approach things based on their ease. So what I'm saying about politics is that all of you must be informed about politics. At the end of this class, by the next time the next speaker comes, you should know who your MCE is. Your DCE or MCE. If you're in a district, you should know who he is. You should know when they have their meetings and go and sit there and listen to what they say. You must understand local development because development is always self, family, community before country. Right? So if you can't lead yourself, the most difficult person to lead is yourself. So you have to have self-discipline. Then you must influence your family properly. So if a man wants to be president, we must see whether he has a functioning family. Then your community. So wherever you live, find out who your MP is, find out who your MC is, find out who your unit committee member is. Do you know what a unit committee is? Well, unit committee is basically like the brick. So you have an assembly, Adenta. Then Adenta is divided into different electoral areas, and then they have different names for it. But for every enclave, maybe Adenta commandos, they have a unit committee. So when Adenta people go and meet at Adenta Presby Church for their meeting, the guy from commandos is your unit committee member. You need to know who he is. You say to him, hi, the guy is choked. Do you get me? So it's about self, family, community. So if you want to influence politics, you must understand how it works. Please, I'm not making sense. If I become president and I say all private universities should pay 70% tax, this university will close down. I don't need to be as smart as him, but I can do more damage. Do you get it? He's smart. He's invented 50 things. I can be a moron. But if I become Minister of Education and I say, or Minister of Finance and say, private investors are even annoying us, so we are going to raise their corporate tax to 80%. You think the investors will stay? And I can say that it takes immediate effect. Tomorrow morning, you are going home. Yeah! So let's not make the thing look like politics is serious. So we have necessity is laid on us to understand our political context as part of the top 1,000%. Top 1,000th. That's what I mean. I'm saying that look, of all the 20-year-olds in Ghana, you are probably most of them will not get the kind of education you are getting. Most of them will not. So you have necessity laid on you. Am I making sense so far? Good. So define reality. Know the price tag, which is discipline. And I'll come to media shortly. I'm just provoking you on leadership briefly before I come to... I'm just provoking you on leadership before I come to the media. Then I'll tie everything together. Great. So understand your context. Right? And understand your context. This is very important. My computer is frozen. So let me go to the next one. Just give me a minute. The ultimate test of a leader is making positive change. That's the ultimate test. Right? So, the person who started in this university is a leader. Because whoever they are, in 10 years, they will have a cohort of influencers in Ghana who will be doing great things. You may not know his name, he may not be in graphic, he may not have a radio station, but he's a leader because he is educating people to create positive change. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not how many... Okay, so let's assume he doesn't win any award in his life. The problem in Ghana is that we think that once somebody becomes prominent, give him an award. An award does not legitimize your leadership. It's what are you changing positively? What can you say about... I think my greatest contribution to Ghana is changing the way morning radio is done. When I started doing radio in Legon, private radio was more about big personalities and bringing politicians to come and argue. Because at the time, we were just transitioning from Rawlings to Kufuor. So it was unheard of to have two people from two different political parties arguing on a radio station. It was new. Calling a radio station and say, hey, my name is Kofi Mensah. I'm calling from Agboba. My gutter is not working. What's the minister doing? That was new. That was like, wow, can we do this? Because 12 years or so, there was nothing like that. All right. So the media of that time was just about politics and discussions. But now I'm on air in 2023. We've had 30 years of a constitution. I can't go on air and say, Okujeto Ablakwa, Okoboy, come and that would be stupid. The time is a development time. We are moving from information to insight. So I cannot just come and be doing the same thing. So my point is that my contribution is changing the way morning radio is structured to make it intelligent radio. That's what I think I'm doing. And I hope I succeed. And that's your job as well. So whatever you're doing, engineer, builder, whatever, how are you changing that thing? The point is not to study the system to become a master of it. The point is to change it. So I don't want to be a successful morning show host who will win awards because I sat in a chair and influenced the same old crazy guys for 10 years. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to redefine the way the thing is done. That's my job as a leader. Am I making sense? So initially when you start from the bottom, you feel like it's just a question of being accepted. And I went through that phase where people were like, this guy, we don't like what he's doing. So you have to first be accepted as a presenter. You have to do well and be recognized. But recognition, thank you, recognition of your excellence is not your job as a leader. Your job as a leader is to say, how can I make this thing better for the next generation? So right now, if you want to be a journalist at my station, you need to understand numbers. You need to understand data. You need to understand graphs. You need to understand many things. When I was going to do journalism as a young boy, you just needed to have a good voice and write well. Now, coding is even part of your job. We are trying to change it because the system has changed. Do you understand what I'm saying? So wherever you are, great neurosurgeon, great teacher, your job is to change it. Right? Am I making sense? I interviewed a guy recently. He was living in the US, making a lot of money. He's come back to Ghana. He said when he was in the US, he tried to get a job in Ghana. Realized that transitioning from working in Wall Street to working in Accra was tough because he lived in the US for like 15 years. Right? So he realized that there's a gap where people who have a good education abroad or wherever who want to reintegrate into Ghana, they need a certain space where they can learn. So he started an NGO where for 2 years, you will go to a rural community to teach. The school will not pay you. He will pay you. You will live in a regular house and you will have to solve a problem. And there are so many guys going for that thing. Because you can be working in Geneva, doing well, sitting on a tram, and then they post you to Kumasi to be the head of customer management for Zenith Bank. It's a different ball game. If you don't have a context for Kumasi, you will break. Do you know what I'm saying? So his job in coming back to Ghana was not to just come and start a successful business and say, I was working in Wall Street, I'm working at Zenith Bank. That's great. But what he's doing is he's changing, based on his experience, he's changing the narrative for making it easier for people who are trained abroad to reintegrate back into Ghanaian society. And by the way, our diasporans are very crucial for our development. Right? I know some of you, your school fees are being paid by diasporans, cousins, aunties, mothers abroad. Those guys are very crucial because they'll provide the economic might to change our story. So never forget that your true job as a leader is to create positive change. And some of that change, you will not live to see it. Which is why the price tag of leadership is sacrifice. Kwame Nkrumah is our greatest leader, politically. He didn't see half of the things. He didn't hear half of it. If only he would hear. One of the things sometimes I fantasize and say, God, can I have an interview with former leaders? Because if he knew how he shaped our minds, he would never know. Right? But maybe he would. Because he's written books and the books are still speaking. So even though he's dead, he still speaks. So that brings us to another thing. We are very interested in instant gratification and immediate recognition. Right? Instant gratification and immediate recognition. Great things can be achieved when people don't care who gets the credit. Very important. Because sycophancy is simply paying lip service because your boss is there, you want the thing to be done, you want to get the honor. The greatest leaders never actually saw the full extent of their influence whilst they were alive. Which is why leadership costs you something. If you want to create a better family for your children, sacrifice, pay. Your parents are paying a lot of money Some of the things you are eating, they never ate it. And yet they are paying USD for you. When you become a great influencer, it is their name that will receive the praise, not they themselves. But that's what makes them great. So they are greater than you, even though you are the one who is on the front pages. We'll discuss it in a meaningful way. Let somebody explain how he got it, and let you explain how you got yours. And say, how come I didn't see it your way? Okay, then you can merge it into proper knowledge. So these days of, hey, don't copy my work. Hey, me alone. I want to learn. I'll go and learn. I'll go and sit in the class. Open, you know, one of the things I like most, when we were in Preset, there were some guys, they learn. I don't know where any of them are. They even learn to intimidate you. And when they are learning, when you come, no, hey, what are you coming to do? Meanwhile, the geniuses, there was a guy, when I was in Legon, I was struggling with maths at level 100. There was a guy called Doji Atimu. He was in St. Augustine's College. Oh my God. He will go and sing choir practice and come back. And we are doing study group. We can't solve a champions projectile something. He said, oh, Bernard, but this is so easy. Then he'll teach you. He'll spend like 30 minutes teaching us. And I understood him because he was a younger person. So help each other. Develop the networks of learning properly. And don't just put your friends, people from your same secondary school, people from your hometown. No. Don't do that. Get people who are not from your same social circle and work with them. So your knowledge will be rigorous. Am I making sense? So the last point on leadership is what I've just said, that the most appreciable asset of a leader is people. One of the evidences that our leaders are not leading properly is that they don't spend as much on us as they spend on other things. Do you get my point? Which is why I fundamentally agreed with free SHS in the sense of spend money on education. They may not be doing it the right way, but the idea that you want every citizen to go to school is a brilliant idea. And for that, I will forever be grateful to the president. I criticize him a lot, but I know free SHS could have been better done, but to have the sense to say that in my time as president, nobody will be denied secondary school because they can't pay school fees. It's a powerful idea. Think about that. Imagine a country where everybody can read and write. Do you know how powerful that is? How many demagogues can come and lie to them? Imagine a country where everybody at age 18 can read and write and think. That's amazing. That's transformational. So the job of the next president is to build on it to make it better. Our politics makes it look like, well, free SHS is the best thing since sliced bread, if you are MPP. Free SHS is the worst thing since whatever, if you are NDC. That's just stupid. Your country is too small. You have 30 million people. You are trying to develop. And every time you do 4 years for it, 4 years back because you are arguing over the basics. Meanwhile, in the US, last 2 weeks, I was listening to the radio. BBC, I finished my show at 10:30. I was going home. They said President Joe Biden had placed sanctions on technology from China, and he had bipartisan support. They interviewed a Republican guy who said, we don't want to promote things from countries that don't share our values. And so we support President Biden in this new round of sanctions. The guy was a Republican. Yet here, do you get me? US is big and bad. You're a very small country, and everything you're divided. You're not wise. There should be things that should be national. There are things that should be sacrosanct. There are things we shouldn't touch with politics. Everybody in Ghana needs a good education, whether you are NDP or JPD. You just need to have that sense. But you are listening to the radio, your father. Look at him. You don't like him. John Mahama. Then you two are sitting in the car. Hey, John Mahama. You don't like him. No. I am a servant of many theories, a slave of none. Or let me put it, I'm a student of many theories, a slave of none. I understand what MPP is trying to do. I understand what DC is trying to do. I'm a slave of none. Because neither of them has the full solution. That's true power. You can learn something and still repudiate some of its ideas. If you can't challenge what you learned, you don't know it. So knowledge is not passing the exam because you are the best student. You can say, yes, this is true, but there's a better way. That's knowledge. So I understand what NDC says, social democracy, MPP says property-owning democracy. Both make sense in a way, but I can repudiate both and look for a third way too. Do you get what I'm saying? Be independent. Your mind is your greatest asset. Protect it with daggers and bows and arrows. Don't allow rubbish to enter your head, including watching useless media. Some media you shouldn't watch. No, yes. If the guy talking is not making sense, tune off. And if the WhatsApp platform is sharing things that don't make sense, delete yourself. Even if it was sent by your auntie. Do you understand what I'm saying? Your mind is your greatest asset. Protect it with passion. Don't allow weeds to grow in your mind. My mind is a garden. I can kill weeds, kill snakes, and plant flowers. So I decide what grows in my mind. Because without a mind, you can't do anything. And the truth is that and it brings me to media now, as I conclude. Now, I'm going to give you a simple equation. In every individual is a brain, right? Okay, we hope so. There's a brain. And everybody's in the mind. Now, every brain has a mind, right? So the brain is the matter, the mind is the immaterial, right? Now, every mind has a worldview, right? And every worldview, there's a shaper behind every worldview. Am I making sense? So there's a worldview in every mind. How you see family, how you see money, how you see women, how you see gender. There's a worldview. Now that worldview is shaped. Now every shaper has an agenda. Now my argument is that in our day, the greatest shaper is media. Not just radio and television. So in the past, family was a very fantastic shaper, but there are parents who have lost their kids to social media. Right? Politics was a great shaper, but you can organize on media. Religion was a great shaper, but people are now preaching both good and bad things on media. So my argument is that 30 years ago, the greatest companies were manufacturing companies, right? So they had the steel companies of the world, Shell, ExxonMobil, and then maybe IBM. They were all built on brick and mortar. Now the greatest companies in the world, the most influential, are all built on the network. Whether it's Alphabet for Google, whether it's Facebook, they call it, I forget the name they call it now, Better, or whatever, Alibaba, they are all built, they are media companies. So my point is that the fact that the top 10 companies are media companies tells you that we are in the media era. So look, I couldn't go to school. Education was a great, you can have a PhD doing Coursera. You can do Zoom to school, for God's sake. Board meetings are being held on the media. So my argument is that the media is the greatest shaper, or is the shaper of our time. So your topic is saying, how does media influence leadership? I am saying that media, which is not radio, TV, social media, mediums, is the driver of the mindsets of people. Right? So we cannot allow that media shaper to go offside. We need three things. We need visionary people owning it. Right? People who own it. So we need great entrepreneurs. So some of you have to be entrepreneurial. You start with your own media company, very small, but you grow and aggregate. We need great media leaders, visionaries. Some of the media leaders of our time are not necessarily men of great values. Right? Because some of the things they show don't reflect the kind of society we want, but they have the money. So you need to understand that in our time, I can do my whole show and everything is on social media. I went to moderate a Vodafone event today. There were more people watching on Facebook than the people who were at Mervyn Peak. And they were sending more questions, even though they were not even there. So what if Facebook decides to change the algorithm for doing live shows and raises the amount by 1,000? It disrupts many things. So media is very powerful and is the greatest shaper of our time. So it needs visionary leaders. That's number one. Number two, it needs skilled people with integrity. That is me. Skilled people. So I don't have money to own a media house yet. Maybe one day I'll get it. But my strength in media is not because I have money. But I have the skill and I am honest. I try to be. That's what we need. We don't just need skilled people, whether they are coders, graphic designers, interviewers. We need, so you can enter the media at that level. So I'm coming home with a point now. For media to shape us into where we want to go, we must invest in quality practitioners. Do you understand what I'm saying? And a quality practitioner is a journalist, a graphic designer, an editor, a newsreader, a coder, a content creator of any kind, who has the technical skill and the moral rectitude. That's what you need. Hello? And that's how because that media must to be developmental focused, it must also be values based. Right? Because the truth is that corruption is a big issue in our continent because people don't have honesty. People are not honest. They go to church a lot, but they lie. So it's not a church issue. It's a values issue. Do you get me? So we believe in journalism that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So we air people's secrets. We are watchdogs. We are gatekeepers. That's what we call ourselves. So media has 4 fundamental roles. Media is a watchdog. So if somebody does something, hey, whoa, 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 we shout the alarm. That's what we do. We are gatekeepers. There's a lot of things happening in the world. You can't know all of them. So we decide what you must hear. So if I do an editorial, I zero in on one topic. It's a very important power I have. So you can have the graphic front page, decide to focus on Alan, or you can decide to focus on bitumen that Goyle is bringing. They decide what everybody thinks about. It's very powerful. That's the gatekeeping role. Then there's something called the scorekeeping role. Media must do research to tell us that, okay, we've done 7 years of free SHS. A media house must analyze things and say, okay, what is the score on free SHS? Independent research, and put it out. That's what you do. Because at the heart of development is what we call the public sphere. The public sphere, the public space. Reasoned public discourse is a sine qua non for development. Reasoned public discourse. So countries that you admire, there's a group of elite who determine the course of the nation by their reasoned thinking. So if you are a judge in a country like Netherlands and you come up with a bad judgment, the professors in the university there will rip your judgment apart and you will lose public credibility because they respect scholarship. But here, you can pay a journalist to write crap about what you do and you are happy because they've given you an award. So the society cannot advance because we are. So what I'm saying is that I don't want to go into theory because the whole guy, there's a German guy who has a whole theory on this. He calls it the reasoned public discourse. So tying all of this to the development issue of Africa, we cannot raise a conscious society without reasoned public discourse. In Ghana, when I got a first class in economics and I said I wanted to do media, most people were disappointed. Go and do a proper job in a bank. That's what they said. And go and join the winners to give people loans and type money. Because media is, in their view, for dropouts. Meanwhile, a friend of mine was doing his PhD in Switzerland. And a professor of PhD resigned to go and write for a newspaper. Because in that society, public discourse has been elevated. So a professor can host a morning show because public discourse is what shapes the nation. But here, if you are eloquent and you can do a funeral announcement, they put you on radio to host a show. And we listen to them and we laugh and we think we are developing a society. And they think that by working in bank and working in wherever, meanwhile, every morning, you, your wife and your kids are listening to me. And if I'm not saying something sensible, I'm polluting you. So we need better people to be in media. That's what I'm saying. So people are like, why are you doing media? It's not a proper job. Well, now look at you now. Look at me now. Okay? Very important. So I want to encourage as many of you as possible to engage with the media. The creatives among you, we need you guys. The creatives, we need you guys, creatives. You do coding, you do graphic design, you can develop apps. We need you guys a lot. Research the data guys, because now economics and all the things we do, we need data team. I have a group of guys. They are all younger than me. They are all smarter than me. They work with me. When I come on in, I sound so smart. It's those guys who do it for me. We don't have the business model yet, which is the final leg. So you have the visionary leader. You have the technically astute and honest practitioner. And then you have a business model that works. We need to figure out the business model because I can't pay most of you. I can't compete with Absa Bank. But I can offer you a platform to do something meaningful that will change the ecosystem that will be better for us all. It is our job as media owners to create viable media businesses. But until we do that, I still want to encourage you. Take an internship in a media house. Understand the way the world works. Go on, write for a newspaper. Be a columnist. Start your own blog. Right? Do a discussion with 3 friends and edit and put it online. Talk to the youth about the kind of things they do. Engage in media. Because of all the shapers, the reason I'm talking to you today is not because of any academic achievement. It's because people listen to me in the morning. That's why Eugene Baole brought me. And that's power to influence. Do you get what I'm saying? So I just came not to just sell media, but to sell the whole context of leadership. That if Ghana will be free, if Africa will develop, it depends on you guys. And don't you dare fail us. Don't you dare. Because our skeletons in the grave will not give you rest. I'm telling you. Because the kind of thing you're getting here, we couldn't get it. He went to Nandom Secondary. Hustled his way to the US. He's created 50 inventions. There were days he didn't even have food to eat. Do you know how hot Nandom is? To go to school, walk 5 kilometers without food in your stomach. And you end up at Siemens and you are beating the Germans and Americans. And you live at Agbogba. And when there's no Uber, you don't want to come to class. You must be tripping. You are smoking something crazy. You are smoking something that is out there. It's cheap quality. Do you know what I'm saying? He was in Nandom. He didn't ask me to say this. I know him. I was the first journalist to interview him. He was in Nandom Secondary, then went to St. Augustine's for A-level. Hustled MIT, competing with all these sharks from Nandom. Do you know where Nandom is? How many of you have gone to Nandom before? Yeah. Right? Trained in Nandom Secondary, not even St. Francis Xavier, which they claim is better. You get me? So, guys, I hope I'm not like shouting on you or anything. Me, when I meet people, I'm wild. Because me, talking is my profession. But I'm saying to you that if the kind of thing being done here is true, the evidence will show after 10 years when you take over leadership. And I know you'll not disappoint me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I told you guys we're going to have a good time, isn't it? I'm sure you all learned something. But for the records, St. Francis Xavier is better than Nandom Sec. Yeah. All right. So if there are any questions, quickly, I'll take like 3 questions.
I'm asking a question to encourage you guys to ask questions. Okay. So Ben, the last 2 weeks has been quite interesting on both the media and the political scene. And I've seen you over the years interview or quote these great people that want to change this beautiful country called Ghana. Are you still confident that we have the right set of people to lead this country?
Wow. Okay, so this is what's happening in Ghana now. People are waking up to, you've done democracy for 30 years, so we kind of know what the 2 leading parties can do. Ghana has the most stable democracy in West Africa, without a doubt, which is a good thing. But we have what is called a choiceless democracy, where NDC and MPP have found a way of governing in their personal interest and not in our interest. People realize this. But the truth is that they've used 30 years to build a very strong system, right? Which I don't have the answer as to how to unravel it, whether from outside or internally. But the point he makes is a very important point about the right set of leaders. What I see is there's a generational shift in voices of influence, right? People are giving me opportunity to talk more. I'm only 42 years old because they are tired of the old voices. So I'm getting all kinds of invitations because they want a new voice. Now, usually a new voice heralds a new season, right? So if you get more new voices who are bringing a new message, then it will give us a new person to choose. Am I making sense to you? So this is a clue that the generation of people in power, both NDC and MPP, have failed us miserably. But that failure includes not preparing the next generation because the requirements to rise in politics will dirty you. You need a paymaster. There's a lot of money. The delegate system is corrupt. You need at least 800,000 CDs to become an MP, if not more. There are few people who can get that genuinely. So once you enter on their terms, you have no chance. So do we have the right people? We are sounding the alarm using our platforms. And you're also raising leaders here. Ashesi is doing the same. Legon is trying their best. Right? When the critical mass, because this is what I think. Few countries do well just because one person is doing a great job. You need a lot of people doing a lot of things many times for a country to do well. Do you follow what I'm saying? So the guy who collects the rubbish must have a sense of duty that I won't let this rubbish remain on the street. I will collect it and make it go into the bin. If you don't get there, you can have a great president, you'll still struggle. So it's not just praying for some Rambo leader to come and take over Ghana. What you need is to grow a critical mass of influential, ethical people in various strata of society. Media, education, healthcare, local government. So you are the guys. The 20-something guys. Because all of a sudden, people now recognize that this type of education is what we need. So people will save money and pay the fees for you. Even though they went to pre-sec, they will send their child to Christian High. That's a shift. Right? So, Mark, what I see is that I see the beginning of a crack. There's a crack in the system. That Alan thing represents a bit of that. I don't think that it will gather enough momentum to make a dent next year. That's my personal view. I hope I'm wrong. But what I see though is when the result comes out and people now realize that it is possible to break this duopoly, even though one of them would have won, then they will organize better around how do we empower a new set of leaders. Not just politically, but in all spheres. Do you hear me? So maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, or maybe even 10 years, because Lee Kuan Yew was not just the best leader, there were people he could work with. Nkrumah struggled because he was a one-man mountain. Too few people around him. You will just die. Right? So it's a tough question, but the way I resolve it is that what you are doing is part of the answer. So if you think about just 2024 elections, you will be despondent. Have a longer term view. Right? So I hope I've made some sense. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes. All right. Any other? Okay, go ahead.
Do I have to start? Yes. So my question is, you mentioned that our system was created for us, and it's very evident. The system has been created for the next 15 years and go on. Now, how sure are you that we can change the system? If there's something that has already been created for us and we just have to adapt to it and follow it, how sure are you that we can change the system? Now, my next question is, we have leaders, we have people as you as leaders, you are the ones educating us. The number of people we have in the society today is very limited. If you die, what happens to us? So,
the people who are okay,
yes.
Okay. So I think it's a very interesting question. So you are saying that the system has been created for us, but the system is not deterministic. Somebody said the whole point is not to predict or analyze history, is to create it. Which I said to you that a leader's job is to change their reality. So how sure am I? Well, at least I know that that's our task. The people who created the system are not God, right? They sat down and they planned it, and we know how they did it. Our job is to put on the light in as many African heads so they all see what we are trying to do, because when we are together, nothing can stop us. The truth is that a lot of the lights are off, and when there's a lot of lights off, the few lights do too much work. So this thing I'm doing here, somebody has to do it in other African countries, or I have to do it. We need people to, when the light is turned on, the game is up. So that's number one. Now, it will require sacrifice, because now, as I said, your greatness is not you becoming a hero and becoming president. Your greatness is in letting people know to free themselves. So a true leader doesn't come and fight for you. A true leader opens your eyes to free yourself. This is a very important thing. So it's not like I'm coming to say, that's why you must be careful of demagogues and people who want like these coup d'etat people and things. No. True leaders, they empower you to free yourself. They don't come and say, I'm going to fight. No. All right. So what happens when people like, look, I like House of Folk. But the greatest football motto belongs to Kotoko. Yeah? They say, Uku mapima pimbeba. That's powerful. Do you know what that means? We are not afraid of death. So if you kill 1,000, when I get goosebumps when I hear that. Ukum apima apimbe. It's very powerful. So they can kill the first batch, another batch will arise. Because that batch has been prepared by the guys who are dying. Do you know what I'm saying? So it sounds a bit of fluffy, idealistic, but trust me, a lot of what we need to know, even in our mottos, they are there. Yeah. So how many Kotoko people are here? Oh, you see the problem? Liverpool, Man U, Arsenal,
Chelsea.
Know their teams. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true. So, any other question? All right, let's put our hands together for our speaker. The very last one.
Yes, so hello. Please, my name is Doreen. Yeah, and you said something about there has to be a lot of lights something like that. So here in the case where you're aspiring to be a leader, how do you get people to vibrate at the same frequency as you're vibrating on? Because sometimes you have a vision, but getting people to see what you see is difficult.
You know, okay, so I'll answer it in two ways. Everybody doesn't have to vibrate on the same frequency on everything. There are the non-negotiables. So, for example, Ghana first. If we all agree that we must put Ghana first, that's enough. That's one. Okay, so Ghana first and me second. Okay, or put the country's interest ahead of my tribe, my party. So that's a small shift. So we will not vibrate on the same level on everything, but there are some non-essentials for leadership. So I interviewed a guy called Professor Pat Utomi, and he said something. He said the difference between successful countries and non-successful countries, he's an economist, by the way. He says strong institutions and then a clear strategy. Right? In our context, even the strategy we don't agree. So when MPP comes, NDC comes to change the strategy. So if we can build strong institutions, because you see what you're saying is, if I'm not there, a certain wise man is a French diplomat, it's called Jean Monnet. He said something. He said, nothing is possible without men, but nothing is lasting without institutions. Let me repeat for emphasis. Jean Monnet, research him. Jean Monnet, French guy. He says, nothing is possible without people, because people make a difference. But nothing is lasting without institutions. So when Obama says Africa doesn't need strong men, they need strong institutions, he's right. That you may need a strong man to start the process, but you need to build a strong institution. Because a leader's ultimate job is to be irrelevant. So I'm not home, I'm here. If my house is dysfunctional when I'm not there, I'm not a leader. There's a structure I put in place. Breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, homework. So Bernard Avle is not great because, hey, Kosi, do your homework. Hey, come now, where are you? Hey. That's not leadership. Leadership is, I'm not there, but there's a certain order that is being followed. Do you get me? Which goes to the question of personality versus structure. So I've put a structure in place in my house. So I'm building an institution in my house. Do you get it? So the problem is that because the leader is insecure, he wants everything to be about him. So what happens is that the people also pretend when he's there that they are doing the right thing. As soon as they say, Opana is gone, Charlie, let's be free. Do you get it? So that's why it starts with you. You have to be confident enough to let go. And if the thing works in your absence, then you're a proper leader. Read about institutions. There's a book, I'll send a book list to him. There are books on institutions. Everything I'm saying, people have researched it all. There's nothing I've said there which is original. The only job that we journalists, we aggregate history. We are generalists. So it's easy for us to synthesize a lot of complex things. That's our real job. So I sound very intelligent, but everything I've said, somebody has done a PhD or theorized in it. Okay? So thank you for the question. I think we're done.